Good evening. I'm Reverend Melissa Self-Patrick, the Director of Community Ministries and Outreach at Independent Presbyterian Church of Birmingham. As the gala begins, let us pause to pray. God of many names, we give you thanks for the incredible beauty of this day and for everyone joining in tonight to celebrate and to build greater support for our beloved community organization, First Light. For the wise and life-giving leadership of Ruth Crosby, we give thanks. And we also offer a prayer of blessing for Sherry Bray as she leads First Light into this new season of possibility and hope. Loving God, we especially pray for the many homeless women and children who have found compassion, comfort, safety, shelter, support, and sustenance in and through the doors of First Light for nearly 30 years. In the midst of our state with high rates of poverty among women and children, and where the economic fallout from the pandemic continues to devastate too many vulnerable families, we ask for wisdom and courage among all of us, First Light volunteers, governing board members, and community leaders and sponsors, that we will creatively and courageously find a better way for your most vulnerable ones. Help us, O Lord, to be light in the darkness, courage in the face of fear, hope in the midst of despair, peace in the midst of turmoil, and joy and strength in the middle of sorrow and weakness. Above all, may we love one another and work for justice, freedom, and peace. Amen.
All right, good evening. I am so happy that you're joining us here tonight. My name is Lillian Lalo, and I'm a news anchor with Channel 42. So I have been up since 1:30 yesterday, this morning, 1:30 this morning. I had to calculate that for a second, but we are so excited that you're here for our 2022 virtual gala. And we hope that you have as much fun with us virtually, and most importantly, give just as generously as you would if we were doing this event in person tonight. Now, we do hope that you will be touched and inspired by these stories that we will be sharing with you tonight about First Light and the important mission. And you may also get some really terrific auction items. So all you have to do is click on the tab and it says items. And that way you'll be able to see all of those special items that have been donated by our community. We have some really beautiful, wonderful, one-of-a-kind items there, so you don't want to miss out on those. And we will have that auction open until 9 o'clock. That's when that bidding is going to close, so you want to make sure you get your bids in. And you can also search by category if there's a certain type of item that you're looking for, so that's really fantastic there. Just click on the item that interests you, and you can also see the current bid. And don't get outbid. If you provide your telephone number, we'll be able to send you a text message and let you know if you're getting outbid. So we will keep you posted there. Especially, you want to keep an eye on those items that you want. And just remember that every single dollar stays locally and directly benefits First Light's emergency or First Light shelter. And you can pick up your items tomorrow at the First Light emergency shelter. So again, this virtual gala will directly benefit our homeless women and families. So this is a very exciting opportunity to help our local community, where a need is more urgent now, really, than ever before. So now let's start out with a word from our sponsor.
The PACE core values are really the foundation of what PACE is built on. And two of those in particular kind of stand out to me in terms of not only being the most important in governing what we do as a company, but also shaping how we interact with the community and how we interact with an organization like First Light.
PACE's values are something that everybody in the company lives by each day. They're really something that we don't just say, or not just something that hangs on the wall, but it really is something that you can see lived out every single day by members of the team.
One of the many reasons why we chose First Light is because it meets our three pillars that we look for in giving back to the community or to an organization, which is revitalization, education, and rehabilitation. And First Light really hits on all three of those.
PACE is committed to not only just doing what we do inside our four walls, but to do it outside of those four walls. And so 3 or 4 times a year at a minimum, we arrange for our teammates to be able to go out and serve. We have a responsibility to go and make sure that the community that we're in every day is constantly working to be better.
The volunteer activities that we put together here at PACE are really special.
We get to go down and a couple times a year serve the guests at First Light, and the atmosphere and the attitude of the folks that are there does not reflect probably their most recent background and the things that they've been challenged with.
I enjoy volunteering at First Light because of the one-on-one interactions I get to participate in with these women and children, and seeing their faces and talking about their experiences.
It's a great feeling to know that you're part of helping turn somebody's life around.
It also gives us a chance to bond with one another while we're doing the right thing and serving relentlessly.
It's not about it's about us, it's about our communities. People can just be people, smile, and help each other, knowing that they're doing something special for the community. Welcome to the 2022 First Light Gala. We are proud to sponsor this year's gala event, and while it's a virtual event, the purpose, the cause is still the same. So let's get out our checkbooks and raise some capital for a great organization.
So we are certainly grateful to PACE and all the sponsors who are generously sponsoring First Light's just incredible and important work. So if you click on the home link, that you can see all of those wonderful businesses, churches, people who are sponsoring this gala tonight. So their generosity and yours really ensures that the most vulnerable in our community have safety and opportunity and hope when they have nowhere else to go. And we want to send a special shout out to the people in our Circle of Opportunity. These are our Circle of Opportunity sponsors. That's Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama, Protective Medical Properties Trust, Baker Donaldson, and Arthur Edge III PC. So the economic fallout from this pandemic has put many women and families at a greater risk of homelessness. Now, Alabama has one of our nation's very highest rates of unsheltered families. So this really puts it in perspective for you. Someone that is making minimum wage right here in Alabama, they would have to work 87 hours a week just to afford a 2-bedroom home at fair market rent. And Alabama is also our nation's 6th poorest state, with more than 800,000, that's about 250,000 children, are living below the poverty line. Now, low-income renters are more likely to lose wages during the pandemic, and they're also the slowest to regain employment. So even if the economy continues to recover, they will continue to struggle just to keep a roof over their heads, a challenge every single day. So even before the health crisis, the poverty rate of women specifically in Alabama was 43% higher than the national average. And 26% of Alabama's children were living in households that were so burdened by just the cost of living that their families were unlikely to adequately meet their most basic needs. And homelessness is devastating to children. Homeless children are 4 times more likely to show delayed development, and they're also twice as likely to have learning disabilities as compared to their other housed peers. And the longer a young child is homeless, the more the negative outcomes are really magnified. It causes a lifelong effect on the child and the family and the community as well. It's a ripple effect. So thank you for being part of our caring community that is really keeping First Light's doors open for them. And we want you, again, please, we want to invite you to click on that donate button. Get those donations coming in. It really will light up all of our hearts in here because you are really making this event possible, and you are really directly benefiting our most vulnerable women and children in our community. And if you've not yet bid on one of our outstanding items, you can still do that. It's easy, it's fun. First Light has really been saving lives for over 30 years, and we want to celebrate that. We want to continue to show our support as a community, and tonight is such a great time to do that. So you may know First Light started in 1983, and it was just this makeshift shelter. It was in a basement of the First Presbyterian Church, and it was run entirely by volunteers. And they simply would not turn a blind eye to the sleeping women on the streets of downtown Birmingham. So for 15 years, the small makeshift shelter that was only intended to accommodate about 15, it often managed to provide safety and nourishment to more than 40. But the homeless population continued to grow, and more space was urgently needed. So in May of 1998, First Light was incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And with the support of our generous community, the old Granada Hotel that was purchased, and it was renovated to serve more women and children and to serve them much better. So the doors of First Light's emergency shelter opened in May of the year 2000. So we want you to see a video about that.
I was looking for a church in Birmingham, and I saw on the Birmingham News front page, Eugenia Gamble and Susan Clayton above the fold, very important article, saying that they were starting a women's shelter. And so happens I grew up with Eugenia Gamble in Greenville, Alabama. So I knew somebody, they were doing something I was interested in. And so I went trotting right over here and said, I want to do this. I found out that that was really my calling. I had a rapport with the ladies that came in there. I could talk to them, they could understand me. Of course, sometimes I'll cuss and fuss, and that helped them to understand me. I had a really good time down there, helping those ladies, and there were like 20 until later on, and then we went up to 30. We had one bathroom, one toilet, one sink, and one shower, and 30 women. We always had a line. It was as good a situation as we could do, given where we were, and it helped a lot of people, but we needed to improve it. We realized that homelessness was not going away. It was here to stay. We thought maybe it'd stay in California somewhere, but it didn't. It really came to Alabama. And we had a lot of people on the streets. The church started looking, the mission committee, I think, started looking for space close to here, because this is where we want to be. The other shelters were really afraid of the mentally ill, and we loved them. The other shelters wouldn't take a lot of these. We were the shelter of last resort at that time. I just fell in love with it, and I was doing what I felt I should be doing. Those people needed help, and I thought I could do it. Miss Betty's mama died, and she came to us because her mother was dead. She had two brothers, I think, that lived in Birmingham. Miss Jeannie helped to take care of her, and it was just amazing to see that. We watched her take care of Miss Betty, and it was just obvious. She just crumbled and couldn't do anything but sit on the couch, and Jeannie would get her up and make sure she ate and all that stuff. And it was something to watch. Miss Betty ended up going to a nursing home. We put her in a nursing home and followed her a long time, but she's not with us anymore. They were quite a pair, those two. And both of them taught us a lot in our beginning. I think there were 74 people that applied for executive director, but I'd been doing it. I think just because I had the experience and really loved it, I was kind of a shoo-in. It was really by design. God had a hand in that the whole time. You know, sometimes we'd just run into a brick wall, and all of a sudden, that wall would just fall away, and we just keep moving. It was a miracle. The community that helped us do it was amazing. They brought food, they brought toiletries, they came and spent the night. A lot of them would go out there and talk to them. And that's what we wanted to see, is some community for the homeless women to see that the housed people would come and volunteer their time to help them. When we moved, I was the staff member. I had a lot of help from Susan Clayton, who was assistant pastor here, and Denise Killebrew. We had no social workers. There was a lady here at First Pres that was a social worker, and she came down to help. She would sit in. I didn't know what a social worker did. Had no clue. Then we hired Sherry Webb. Sherry's been there. We hired her in January 2001. Sherry was a licensed social worker. So she started from there, and now she's the executive director. There is hope there. But we went into it with our mind set up. We wanted real social workers, degreed, professional people, so they could really be cut loose and say, go, fix them. The mission is put them back together, get them on their feet, and get them a place to live. They're not supposed to live forever or even a long time in emergency shelter. That is supposedly a quick stop. It isn't working that way now because we don't have enough housing, low-income housing, to put them in from shelter. But it's not just Birmingham's problem, it's the state's problem, it's the country's problem. When we were in the basement here at First Presbyterian, we had no children with us. It was just adult women, homeless people. We've had families stay with us for 7 children. We've had 5 children, 4 children. That's a lot of children. We didn't anticipate that at the time we were planning, so we've been scrambling to take care of children for several years now. That little group of mission-driven people at First Presbyterian made that decision to build a shelter, and it has affected thousands of women and their children over the years that I was there. We need the continued support of all our volunteers and our churches and our foundations and corporations, because we've got greater things yet to come. Just watch. Okay, I'm done.
So we are certainly grateful for the outstanding service and contribution that Ruth has really made to our community and just in the lives of vulnerable homeless women. And joining me now is Sherry Bray. She is the Director of Social Services at First Light. And you've been that for more than 20 years, but then after an extensive search, First Light's governing board determined that she was the best person to lead First Light into the future, and Sherry became the executive director of First Light starting right at the beginning of this year in January, which is incredible. So let's talk about, you were really coming into this job right in the middle of all the challenges happening with COVID.
Right.
So let's talk about that. How did you navigate that in a new position?
Yeah, so COVID years ago, we were at the brink of almost 2 years, going on maybe 2.5. And during that time, we had to develop protocols and figure out what COVID was and how best to keep our women safe. Just not our ladies, but also our staff and our volunteers. So we went through a lot of cleaning and a lot of education about what COVID was and the best protocols for that. And we did really, really well. Because of the population that we serve and the space that we have, we went to half capacity, but right now we're back at full capacity.
That's wonderful.
And have not been full in probably 2 years, so I'm really excited about that. So we're having a lot more noise in the building, a lot more babies, a lot more children, so we're back where we were before COVID.
And I have a note here that said you were uninterrupted by the pandemic for the most part, which is incredible.
Yeah, so again, we didn't know what it was. So our permanent supportive housing, First Light not only does emergency shelter for homeless women and women with children, but we also provide an array of permanent supportive housing in the community. And so we have a staff of social workers that go out and work with women who are seeking housing, and they provide supportive care in their home. So it has been a challenge with COVID in the emergency shelter, but our permanent supportive housing was seemingly untouched during COVID.
That's
a good
incredible.
thing. Yeah.
Wow, that just goes to show, the organization that y'all have and the drive to keep things up and running.
Yeah.
Incredible. So I think, people watching will be interested to find out the improvements that y'all have even made. Not only did you survive the pandemic, but y'all have thrived, really.
Yeah, so January 2022, just a couple months ago, I became the new executive director of First Light. I've been at First Light for quite some time. And the board did go through an extensive search, but in that process, I learned a lot about and did a lot of research on trauma-informed care. And from there, we're in a model of trauma-informed care, which brings in trauma design. So some of the changes that we see in the shelter are all from that design concept of calming colors, things that bring in nature. So you'll see plants when you come in the building, or flowers in the building, different types of art. Because what we know about homelessness is that it's a trauma in itself. But our ladies also bring other traumas with them. So we see domestic violence, we see all types of abuse, we see family problems, we see medical problems, we see mental health problems, and people have different things that they bring into the shelter with us. So one of the things that our focus is how do we take what they have and bringing in homelessness on top of that and help them become better people. So we're in a trauma-informed care model, and we're doing training with our staff on what that means and how we can serve our clients a whole lot better.
That's, trauma-informed care is a term that I've kind of heard recently over just, the past year even, and that's so interesting. So you're saying that you used your training to literally design improvements in the building. That is so incredible that it's, the art on the wall is not just you went out to some random place and grabbed whatever, but everything is thoughtful.
Everything is thoughtful and strategically thought out, from colors to how we, is the shelter cluttered? Is it clean? Is it inviting? Is there too much light, or is there not enough light? In our process of doing some of the changes, one of our staff had a fantastic idea of creating a children's place, and it's called a children's place. And I tear up about stuff, so
it's okay.
So
we're all friends here.
We have recently, with the help of our board and some volunteers, designed a space a room specifically for children, a place that they too can go and relax and play and color on chalk tables that were painted by someone who loved them and cared about them. A place where mom can go and rock her baby and read and watch the other kids. So it has been a true delight and a true need, but it all surrounds that trauma-informed care. It's all developed in an idea of what we're going towards. Yeah.
Because I can imagine as a mother, that must be just such a difficult path to walk, because you're trying to be strong for your child, but you need help too. And so, I mean, the fact that they also have a place just for them, the children, that they can go be kids.
Yeah. So some of the idea, and I can talk about what we do forever and for days and days to come. We know that children suffer when they are homeless. Not only does the mom have her trauma of I've got all this stuff to deal with, but now I'm homeless and now I have children with me. So to have a space where the kids can go and do their homework in silence, where they can just play and be kids. We know that when children are homeless, that they suffer from developmental delays. We know that there's some intellectual stuff that comes along with homelessness. But if we can provide a space and to provide the support to mom and to that child, we believe that we can improve the lives of those we serve every day.
I always kind of think about, that hierarchy of needs chart, and I would assume, in children, if they're homeless, I mean, they're concerned about just the basic needs, and everything else kind of, I guess, sort of might get turned off. I mean, am I speaking out of turn? But I'm just trying to understand. Yeah. Is that right? I mean, does that sound...
You think about a mom with children that come into the shelter, and we've seen an increase in the number of children and families that we serve. Even through the pandemic, we saw that. And so when families come in and moms bring those babies in, her first thing is, now I have a safe place to stay, because First Light is a safe place for our moms and for our children to be. Now, what do I do? I have a place that they can sleep, that they're going to get a meal and they're going to be okay. And I'm going to see a social worker who's going to help me navigate to get my child back in school, or to get that child into daycare, and to help me get some housing where I can be a better parent.
Yeah. And I have a note here. The homeless population, they have complex needs. It's not just, roof over your head. Yeah. There you go.
It's not that easy.
Yeah.
Homelessness is not just, here's a bed, here's a place to shower. A large percentage of homeless persons, they have some type of medical illness, a mental health illness, family problems. And through the efforts that we're doing at First Light, we have a great staff of social workers that work with our people to figure out what's the next step in the plan, what's the next step in your life. And we hook those people up with resources, and we see the change. One thing that I love to see is change in the women. We can have someone that's not medically stable, that's not mentally stable, and to hook them up with some resources and get them on the right treatment, to see that change is something that just kind of gives me fuel to keep going.
Oh, wow. That gives me chills just thinking about that. That's incredible, incredible. Yeah. Let's talk about, I have a note here and I'm not sure. I put long-term homelessness. What was I talking about? Tell me, what is that word? What does that mean to you?
Long-term homelessness. So in homelessness, we see sometimes generational homelessness.
Okay.
So we can see a mom who was homeless when she was in her 20s, and she didn't have children, and those children have children. So, one of the things that we talk about, and we talk about trauma, something happened, so we have to change the conversation of wonder why that person is acting a certain way, and we change the conversation to what happened in that person's life, what happened in that mom's life, or sometimes in that dad's life, that they are continually homeless, that we see that pattern of homelessness over and over again. And we have to look at those dynamics, whether it's, is there a medical problem? Is there some developmental problem? Is there a mental health problem that's undiagnosed, that we can help that mom get some services for, to make things better for her and her children.
And you're making generational change and generational impacts, and that's incredible. So I love hearing, okay, you've made it through COVID, you have thrived, you've thrived through COVID. You never stopped helping. You were even able to improve your facility with by using your trauma-informed care training, children are having their own special area where they can be kids. And you're also tackling, you know, just the generational, you know, maybe kind of being the little rock in the stream that changes the direction of generational change there. So I'm so glad that you came and talked to us today, and I hope that, you know, the people watching, I hope that you're inspired to be able to really see, you know, exactly where your money is going. Every time you hit that donate button, every dollar matters. Every dollar makes a huge impact in our local women and our children that are dealing with homelessness. And it's something that, you know, if you're able to help them now, you're really impacting generations to come. So we invite you to continue clicking that donate button tonight. You know, let's really get these donations coming in. And I want to now toss it to a film about the day in the life that First Light plays. So let's watch that.
So when women and children come in for shelter, it's really a tough situation for them. First of all, they're in a bad situation. That's what's brought them here. And for a lot of women, it's an unknown situation. They don't know, you know, what to expect. So you just have to be very patient and kind and reassuring that we're a good place to come to. The person that sits at the front desk is very important when it comes to compassion and being soft-spoken, because we are the first person that they see when they come in, and they bring in a lot of baggage when they come in. Not only their baggage that they bring in, their stuff, but the baggage that they may be carrying with them inside.
The most important thing about our intake is to make sure that our guests feel very comfortable and that they know that they are in good hands.
When a woman comes with a child, it's kind of different than when a woman is by herself, because some of them, they're really, really emotional about, you know, I got to bring my children in here, and that I've never been homeless before, I don't know what to do, and the kids are scared too, so I get the kids some toys, we get comfortable, we play, I give them little names, they give me little names. Once you make them feel comfortable and let them know that, you know, you're not alone. Everyone in here has been through something, you know, even myself. So, and once they start feeling comfortable, then they start feeling that they can do this, you know, that they can achieve the goals that they're set out for. So, and it makes me feel good. knowing that I can just help them that way because someone had to help me that way.
Wow, it is, heartbreaking to hear those stories and imagine what would happen, if the First Light Shelter was not there for those vulnerable women and children. So we appreciate that story. And the staff and the volunteers, they really do everything that they can to help guests at First Light feel as comfortable as possible, but there is not very much privacy. It is an emergency shelter situation. So every guest does have their own locker. That's where they can keep their things, but it's just that one small space that really gives them their autonomy and their privacy. So if you can please consider supporting First Light's project to replace our old lockers with the new ones so that they have better shelves and they have more space to hang their clothes and just keep their things, a space of their own. Each new locker costs $500, and the shelter needs to replace 36 lockers. So you do the math on that. If you can help us donate or help to donate, you will be helping women directly by something as simple as having their own space, their own locker. So if you click on the items tab, you can choose from a number of gifts, and you can make a gift small or large to try to help us reach our goal. And you can also help to buy a locker, part of a locker, or maybe several lockers. We want to get up to 36 new lockers, so maybe one of you could donate all of them. I don't know. You do you. But your gift will directly impact the experience of all the guests at First Light. So also don't forget to check on our auction items, and the bidding will be ending at 9 p.m. So I'm joined now by a member of First Light's governing board. This is Blair Sanford. And Blair, you have been a volunteer for many years, and I want you to tell us about your experience as a volunteer. Just kind of, let us into that world.
Sure. Yeah. So I was first introduced to First Light over 20 years ago, so it has been quite a long time. Introduced by my sister, Wendy Boyan, who was a volunteer at that time. And our first volunteer experience was at a gala. And we sold coffee, which the agency sold at that time, as well as some of the items that the guests had actually made in their art program. And I bought one. I bought a Christmas ornament that I still hang on my tree today. So very nice and a great memory. But that kind of got me into the organization. Then I went into making dinners at times, being an overnight volunteer, and then was approached to join the board. So I was on the board years ago and did a 6-year term, and now I'm back. They can't get rid of me, so I'm back for another 6-year term, and it's just so rewarding being a board member. Helping with the strategy and decisions and guidance, and bringing in some people that you know in the community that you think you can help. So it's another great way to volunteer. And I would like to take the time to thank those board members who have done a fantastic job for the gala. They really are an active, engaged team. Two particular that you'll get to talk to later, Pam Kohler and Virginia Miller, are our co-chairs for our gala committee this year, and have done a great job. And Melinda Burnett is also a board member and has done a fantastic job with the auction and done a lot of work on that. So really appreciate their help.
Yeah, and excellent items. You can always click on that button. We never take it down. And you can see those items. Make sure nobody's outbidding you on something that you want. Let's talk more about, I think you might have a story in you about how you've found that anyone can end up in this situation, needing help, maybe from a shelter like First Light. Talk to us about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is certainly a reality that all of us, face, that we are surrounded with a lot of need in the community. You heard it from Sherry, you have mentioned some of the numbers and the statistics. Our community, unfortunately, has a lot of need in this area. And so I just felt the call to share what, my resources, my time, my attention to really help with that need.
Yeah,
and when you experience what I have with First Light just as a volunteer, you get to really see how they meet that need, how the agency is so well run, and it just made me want to be a part of that team for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about kind of the details of being a volunteer. There could be someone watching now that is thinking, oh, I need to get on board with this. So I think volunteers are extremely vital, and so let's just kind of go through them. So talk about, maybe how volunteers help with food, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do provide dinner every night, and that is all volunteer-based. So we're very thankful for our volunteers that they are coming and making and serving dinner. Wow. A great way to get to know and kind of connect with the guest as well. Another great way is to be an overnight volunteer. You're there to really hand out supplies and help from the evening perspective as they get ready to do what they need to do that night. But I'll tell you, it's a great way to connect. You can get to talk to the guests, you get to know them a little bit better. If there are kids there, you can read to them, play games. That gives mom a break so she can go shower and do laundry and do what she needs to do. So that's a great opportunity.
Wow.
But other things are, we entertain, throw parties,
I've got
even educational type series.
I've got it written down, handing out supplies, educational. Talk about entertainment, because there could be someone watching that might be able to help with that. I don't know.
Yeah, we've even had kids come and do, programs, Bible studies. There's a lot of different things that they can do to really provide, Christmas parties and things for the guests that help them to kind of forget, where they are and what their situation is just for a little bit and help them enjoy themselves.
Well, people that are watching, are there any specifics in these areas? Like I'm thinking, supplies, entertainment, educational opportunities. Is there anything that people could help in that area with donations or time or anything like that? Or is money the best way?
Money's great. But yeah, all the things that I just mentioned. I mean, those are all great volunteer opportunities. The website is very easy to use to sign up for those opportunities.
Okay.
And then there's also typically out there on the website a list of the things that they need right now. So just a list of items, whether it's cold medicines or cleaning supplies, whatever it is at that moment. So check that.
Yes, that's a great idea. Yeah, and sometimes there's the extreme couponers or someone with a big stockpile that might have that exact item.
Right.
So thank you so much for just really shining a light on the volunteer portion of First Light, and because we know that is the kind of the bread and butter, makes everything go.
It is. So
yeah.
we need those volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We do have a package on our volunteers. So hey, keep clicking on that donate button and looking at the private auction, but we also want to show you this story as well.
Well, I first heard about First Light from a friend of mine. I had moved from New York and worked in Tompkins Square Park serving lunch, and I heard a similar ministry outreach was happening at First Presbyterian, and it started out with 22 mats on the floor, and that was 26 years ago.
I first came to volunteer at First Light when I was interested in art therapy. I think a Google search and just talking around led me to the art program at First Light.
Years ago, we were in the suburbs, and we saw how the cities were troubled in many ways, and a lot of homeless people, and just wanted to find a way to try to help. And the volunteer coordinator had us down, and we went through the shelter, and then we started serving meals, and pretty soon an opportunity arose to do a Bible study here on Wednesday nights, and so we started doing that, and have just continued on ever since.
You know, this is my passion. I mean, I'm very involved in lots of different things at church and otherwise, and I've often thought when I get too old to keep up and do what I've been doing, this is going to be the last thing I give up.
I think the volunteers benefit in many of the same ways that the guests do.
These women have taught me so much about resilience and strength and grace and things I never intended when I first began working in the shelter.
They're genuinely grateful, you know, that we have taken the time to do this. They're just like stars out there, you know. They brighten our evening as much as maybe we brighten their evening.
There were days that I would leave volunteering and just go and cry in my car because you're so full of, so much.
We all share the need to be treated with dignity and respect and given a second chance, if you will. At times, we all make mistakes, and this is a place of second chances.
I certainly recommend that others volunteer at First Light. I think anybody who has any ability should use that ability in whatever way they can.
People want the same thing. They want dignity, respect, and human contact, compassion.
This is not a scary place, you know. It is not scary. It's heartwarming.
I want to continue working at First Light always until I can't anymore. Volunteering is empowering in that you can change and make an impact in another's life. And most importantly, we change in the process. It's an interdynamic kind of process that not only are you impacting others' lives, but you're changed in the process.
It's always so inspiring to see how our community really is able to come together to help people in trouble. So this virtual gala was a result of a lot of hard work by a lot of dedicated people. And two of those wonderful people who have done so much to bring us all together and put this wonderful event together this evening are co-chairs of the virtual gala, Virginia Miller and Pam Kohler. So we are so glad that y'all are here with us tonight. So Virginia, I have it here in my notes that you are on the governing board, and this is also your second year as the gala co-chair. Tell us, just from your personal perspective, why are you so personally moved to be such a big member in First Light?
Well, first off, just for a minute, if I could just say how hard the board and the gala committee has worked and works every year. And obviously we had a little bit of a learning curve going into the virtual because we were so used to getting together for different little events, like maybe we wash vases when it used to, when we were still doing it live before COVID, and just really the fellowship in the community amongst the committee and the board. This board works really hard. Lonnie Powell, the development director, also works very closely with us, and she does a lot of work and works very hard, and she's sort of the captain of our ship and writes everything and keeps us together. And the rest of our board and the committee just works really hard. And I'm so proud to be a part of this group, and they inspire me. And I think Pam probably feels the same way.
For sure.
But how did I get involved, and why do I love being such a part and being a volunteer and on this board? I started the first time I ever served dinner at First Light with the women and the children. and I'm like, Sherry, I might tear up.
It's okay.
I'm a member of First Presbyterian Church where this started in the basement. And so with my, what were we called? The young Presbyterian women, even though I don't know that I was very young when I was doing it, but we started serving dinner together as part of a group and something to do once a quarter, and that's where I really got started volunteering. That's where I got hooked. My friend Liz Tucker, who's still on the board, we all know, she then invited me to be I wasn't on the board, but then on the Gala committee, and just always had so much fun. I had fun serving dinner, but then also, and this is what gets me thinking about feeding the children, because tonight you have to remember there's going to be kids that are hungry in this county, in this city, them coming up and that part was very, very meaningful, knowing that I was feeding them and I was with them. And then being at the first time I did the gala, I was a spotter for the auction. So it was kind of fun and wild, and I get to, twist this thing in the air, had like something that I would do like this so I could spot for the auctioneer. So that was really fun. This is just really, it's very, very meaningful, and to be a part of this and just know how much you're helping, and I can't even really put it, words don't do anything for the feeling that I get when I serve, especially dinner for the ladies and the children.
When you're imagining that, when I see you, as you're talking about it, I wonder, do you see kind of pictures or moments in your head maybe of that child feeling thankful or having an expression on their face? Can you kind of describe that to us?
Sure. When they, everybody gets to go through the line the first time, to make sure everybody gets fed. And then they get their dessert, and then sometimes if there's extra dessert, the kids will come back, in their little heads. There's like a little shelf there, and their little eyes and their little head, and they're wanting another cookie, and you just want to be like, here's 3 cookies. Yeah. I mean, you may be up all night, but it just, they're so sweet and they're so precious and they are so thankful. But sometimes, although I know they're thankful, and usually my women's group would do tacos. Yeah. We'd always do tacos, and the ladies would always say how grateful they were, because a lot of times, because you're feeding such a big group of people, organizations will do things like casseroles or chili, because you can feed a lot of people. Right. But they don't get a whole lot of crunchy food because of that, and they were always so grateful for it, and we always ran out. And so we learned as a group, as we did it longer, about, we need more meat, we better have some salsa. People get rowdy if we don't have enough salsa, if we don't have enough ranch dressing. So we learned from our, sort of mistakes, so to speak, but had a really fun time with the women in my group. We all got to know each other really well, and so that's why some of the other organizations I'm in, I always say to them, something we could do as a group that I think would really bond us and bring us together is serving dinner at First Light.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure there's people watching now that are probably thinking, oh, that's what I can do in my youth group, or in any
sorority group.
Yes.
The soccer team, the basketball team. Whatever organization, and the women and the children. I think especially kind of like seeing younger people sometimes too. I think
That's
the kids I think sometimes like seeing the younger folks. So somebody to relate to. But yeah.
And I just love that, and I love imagining the kids peeking up and that kind of stuff really sticks with you, and I like that it makes you emotional, because this organization is just, it's making such a huge difference, and your personal experience might feel micro, just giving a cookie to a child, but you have no idea how much that is going to ripple out. So,
and I hope so, and that's what I try to tell people anytime is, your efforts or your words or your kindness, you don't know how that's going to play in somebody's life and really make a difference, not just in their day, but in a month or a year, or
right.
You just don't know what kind of difference you're going to make, and it's so important. And I would really encourage everyone, if they can, to volunteer at First Light. Even during COVID, when really they didn't have as many volunteers, people couldn't come in because they were being very careful, and Sherry's correct, they were very careful in protecting the ladies. They did such a wonderful job. But I would still, because I knew they liked tacos, I would order food and I would take it and just drop, you could just drop it off at the kitchen.
Right.
Actually, this is a plug, I guess, for Sol Azteca, but I would order it from Sol Azteca, and we would go pick it up and drop it off, because I knew just because it's COVID doesn't mean you don't like tacos. So anyway.
Absolutely. That's the quote of the night right there.
Right. Yeah, right. And so if anybody wants to call First Light and speak with Camilla, I think she's the one who organizes the volunteers.
Okay.
And I think it would be very rewarding for them and something that is very lasting and just like me, will make it'll really change your life. I know that sounds really trite to say that,
No,
but
it doesn't.
But it really will change your life.
I was very active in the youth group at Independent Presbyterian Church, and I volunteered multiple times in my youth, serving the women, and it's something that sticks with you. It's very impactful, for sure. So, Pam, I want to hear about you as well. I want to hear about your experience volunteering with First Light and just, how you're so involved today.
Yeah. So it was probably about 3.5 years ago, another volunteer at the shelter was working on the annual Gala committee and asked if I would like to help. And honestly, I was not familiar with First Light. And so I volunteered that year, and it was when we had a live event. So this, of course, is quite different. But soon after that, I thought, I need to know more about First Light. So I actually arranged for a tour of the facility so that I could have a better understanding, and just to get to know the staff at First Light, get to understand how the women that come into the shelter are received. And I know for me, and probably a lot of other people too, think about First Light as just an emergency shelter, right? But it's really so much more than that. For example, the 4th floor of our shelter currently houses 9 women who are permanently disabled from mental illness. And so, these people need that place to call home. They need that place to feel that sense of security, right? And so it's in my short period of time that I've been with as a volunteer and serving at First Light and serving the community. It's just a small part of what I can do, to help the community. And in addition to the women that we house on our 4th floor, there are 2 other supportive programs that are permanent supportive programs. Sherry's already mentioned a couple of those before. Our newest one is our rapid rehousing program. And so, to provide these women stability and to provide them with a sense of security, we want to get them into housing as quickly as possible. So that's what the rapid housing program does. And then we also have our permanent supportive housing. And so that, again, is more of a long-term, giving these women the security and the stability that they need. Both of these programs are federally funded.
Wow.
So it's really important to our community, it's really important to our shelter to have, these programs in this shelter.
And I like, imagining the shelter, that's just the emergency location. And then the fact that y'all are able to then, give them the permanent solution is wonderful. So, and that's what I have in here, 9 women that are permanently disabled because of mental illness. They use that 4th floor of that shelter, which I did not know. That's incredible. And the rapid rehousing, I think that people who are donating, that's very encouraging for them, knowing that y'all are giving permanent solutions.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And I don't want to close without saying again to all of our volunteers. Virginia and I have been so fortunate to have such a great team of people that has put this together, and there are some different challenges when it's virtual.
Of course.
And so we are so grateful for everybody. We could not have done it without everyone's support. And so we want to thank you and invite you to come and help us next year, because we'll be back doing this again.
I love that. I love that. And I think anyone that is doing a virtual event, you really hope that the people watching, feel the energy that's here, and the energy of what y'all are doing is just incredible. And I hope that is coming through on your end at home. And I hope that it'll inspire you to keep clicking that donate button. So thank you both so much. And also, there are many auction items that are still available. We're talking about one that I think we want is item number 103. It's a steak dinner, a really nice steak dinner that you can go and share with the women and children at First Light. So that one is still going. There's so many wonderful, wonderful items. So you don't want to miss out on those. And also, you can put your cell phone number in, and you'll get a text message automatically. If there's an item that you really, really want, they're going to let you know if someone's about to outbid you. And the auction will close at 9 o'clock this evening, so don't let that time pass you by. You want to make sure you get your bids in and win those items, and then you get a great item and you're helping an incredible cause on so many levels. And so again, every dollar that we raise, that's going to directly benefit the homeless women and families who depend on First Light permanently even. And everything that you win will be available for you to pick up at the shelter tomorrow. So, hey, perfect. And we want to ensure that the doors at First Light continue to stay open, and inside everything continues to just thrive and help these women and children. And you can do that directly by clicking that donate button. Okay, so there are many reasons why someone might find, a woman might find herself homeless and turning to First Light for help, but it takes a lot of work to keep the place safe and then to keep them safe, and also just to really start to rebuild their life. It takes hard work and a plan, and each guest at First Light, they work privately with a qualified professional, and that professional helps them to overcome these issues that might have caused the homelessness in the first place, whatever that is, from mental, physical, anything. And together they develop a plan of action, an action plan, and they work as a team to overcome any obstacles that stand in their way. The hallmark of First Light is wraparound social service. So what does that mean? It means intensive, individualized care planning and comprehensive, holistic services that address a wide range of needs, whatever those might be. So First Light's professional and social services staff, they stay informed about, and they also work in a collaborative effort with many local agencies and organizations so that every family member, they can get health care, they can get legal assistance. You never know what legal troubles they might be facing. They can get job training, substance abuse counseling, and any other services that would be appropriate for helping them secure employment and housing, and just start rebuilding their lives. Homeless women and families turn to First Light when they literally have nowhere else to go. And they are received with hospitality, they are received with kindness and love, and they also get the guidance and the support on every level that they need to really address this incredibly complex issue of homelessness, and specifically in our community. So your gifts are changing lives, and we want you to watch this video of a successful guest and what they've overcome.
I came to First Light initially years ago. Me and my kids, I had 2 daughters at the time. We came in because of a domestic situation that I was going through. So we came over here and got real acquainted with a lot of the caseworkers and stuff, and they were good to us. It was something I wasn't used to, staying with a bunch of people I didn't know and having my kids with me. But I spoke with one of the head caseworkers, and she kind of like put it in my mind to not focus on my surroundings, but mainly focus on why I was here. And that helped a lot. It really did. Miss Maya is my case manager. I called her one day with some family stuff, and she let me cry and talk and cry and talk. And by the time I got off the phone with her, all the tears were gone. They pick up where they need to pick up. They jump in where they need to jump in, and I appreciate that. they're lifesavers. They put people in their true perspectives. You know, sometimes I hear we lose our way, but if you got somebody that cares enough, like First Light, they'll genuinely work with you and nurture you to be the person you know that you were designed to be. There are people that are dedicated to their jobs. My older two girls, I won't name their names, but they still call this place the castle. They never knew it was a shelter. It was just a castle, and they were princesses in the castle, and that's how they looked at it. They loved this place. All while we were out during the day, they were like, Mom, when are we going back to the castle? We're going back to the castle. So they actually liked this place, you know, and that was good for me. That was definitely good.
I discovered First Light during a very tough and trying time in my life. It was a scary time for me. I must say, looking back, it was a period of a bit of turmoil mentally, and I just didn't know where to turn. When I first arrived at First Light, I must say that I was relieved because I was welcome and I saw some friendly faces, and it helped me feel more comfortable. When I walked into the doors of First Light, I was able to see that I was safe. So First Light is a lifesaver. I would highly recommend First Light to any woman not knowing where to turn. You can come in and find a safe haven, and I would highly recommend this place. Since last year, I've been able to come back over to First Light and donate. I'm very excited to have been able to help a mother. She had 2 kids, and I was able to give them some of the things that they needed. And I'm very much just enriched by the opportunity to give back. In addition to being able to make monthly donations, I came up with an idea to present vision boards to each of the ladies here at the shelter. A word of encouragement to the ladies could just brighten their day, maybe inspire them where they haven't been inspired in a while, maybe empower them to do something that they may have felt that they had to give up on.
Thank you to the staff of First Light. Thank you to everybody that donates. Thanks to everybody that cares.
I would like to say to all those that are considering making donations, whether small or large, we need your assistance, your help. Never feel like your help is too small. We need your help. There are ladies here that are in need, and it is definitely a light in the community.
Well, it is certainly heartwarming to know that right now, vulnerable homeless women and families are finding security and sanctuary at First Light's shelter. And that is all because of you. That is all because of your generosity. Your gifts keep the doors open at First Light. So these vulnerable women and children, they get that personalized attention and that guidance and the service that they need to achieve the best level of independence and really start to rebuild their lives. It looks like number 102 in the silent auction is still available. It's a beach condo. I might be bidding on that one soon. But there are fabulous, fabulous items, and all you need to do to win any of those wonderful items that have been donated by our just incredibly generous community. All you got to do is click on that items button and bid. And then you're not going to get outbid if you give us your cell phone number, because we will give you an update if you're about to get outbid. And everything closes at 9 o'clock. So you want to make sure you get those bids in and stay on top of it. Don't go to bed until you make sure that you won your item. And then anything that you purchase that it's an item that you might need to pick up, All of those will be available for you at First Light Shelter starting tomorrow morning. Also, you can choose number 100, item number 100. This one is especially special because you would be directly providing new lockers for the guests at the First Light emergency shelters. You can buy a whole locker for $500, part of a locker or a whole bunch of lockers. And this is a wonderful way to directly help those women and children because it gives them their own personal space, just really a sense of dignity to have their own things in their locker. And it's amazing how something as simple as a locker can make a huge, huge difference. So in closing, I do want to read these few things that are just really staggering. 84% of homeless families have a female head of the family. 84% are still led by a female. And the United States has the largest number of homeless women in all of the industrialized nations. So in fact, a third of those who are experiencing homelessness are families and children. So the caring professionals at First Light know what it takes to help someone who is struggling to make a plan and stick to it. They have researched it. They have researched it down to the paint colors on the walls with that trauma-informed care. If you have been touched by the stories that you've seen tonight on how First Light supports the homeless women and children in our area, please, please keep clicking that donate button. Every dollar helps. Every dollar goes directly to our local women and children, and you are, rest assured, making an impact. Again, we're closing our bidding at 9 o'clock. Everything you're going to win is going to be available tomorrow, and every dollar raised tonight is going to stay local, and it's going to give our women and children really the chance that they deserve to avoid the devastating psychological, developmental, and emotional consequences of homelessness. And it's really frightening to imagine what would become of them if not for people like you sitting at home comfortable watching this, who are so generous and have always been behind First Light and given them the financial support that they've needed for so many years. So thank you for being a part of this First Light virtual gala.
Walking the paths that I've walked, along with seeing the things I've seen, I've got to tell you all today that I'm living out my dreams. My favorite poet once said, "Life for me ain't been no crystal stair." And I felt that because mine hasn't been at all. But in the times I wasn't able to walk, I never ceased to crawl. Constant self-thoughts, always playing in my head. Keep pushing, never worry. Don't fall victim to the streets. And if it's the odds against you, then it's the odds you must beat. Though the journey was rugged, faith is what I kept. They said if I had it the size of a mustard seed, God would always be there. And he was. Placing me in the paths of these people who genuinely care with love has put my life into a transformation, like elevating from a human to a dove. So when I say I'm living out my dreams, just know I'm not done. I have much more to do. And if I had 1,000 tongues, it wouldn't be enough to thank you. So with everything in me, I thank you for all your dedication and love. I give you my word to keep striving. Sincerely, your soaring dove.